Whatever Nvidia does numbers-wise, beat, raise, what is it that they need to say or do to change sentiment right now?
Yeah, thank you again for having me here, Ed. You know, as Carmen just said, they're doubling earnings here every quarter, right? You've got a really acceleration again this quarter, especially versus last year, and still the stock is trading in 18, 19 times, 16 times 28 earnings. They're going to have to talk about these investments. That circular financing narrative is out there every week. Every day you wake up and there's every day there's, you know, that comm team at Nvidia is the hardest working team you've seen in the market today. And so every day they come out with another investment.
That? Some of them watch this program.
Yeah,
It'll be interesting to see how they respond to that. Sorry to interrupt you.
They're quite hardworking there. So I would say, look, I actually think I read something the other day on the information, which was about how this is a little bit reminiscent to what John Malone did in the 1980s.
Okay.
So if you recall, he was building TCI. And at the time, that relied on cable networks, and he was trying to build the cable TV of what you know today. Of course, that's being cord-cutted at this point. But at the time, he was seeding it with investing in Discovery, investing in BET, investing in a number of other channels. Turner, we're talking about all these companies now, the new Paramount, David Zaslav's Discovery, Warner. He seeded all of those and then spun them out into another entity, which is what we know of Liberty Media today.
Interesting. So there's two different parts there. You know, what Nvidia and Jensen Huang would argue is that the actions they're taking in terms of investments or financing grease the wheels.
Exactly.
They make deals happen that would otherwise not happen. The part two of what you've just set out is creating out of Nvidia some kind of vehicle.
They could ultimately do that. Now, I have no insight into whether they're going to be doing something like that, but that could be a really interesting method for them for us to also be able to invest in the overall AI ecosystem. You saw a similar move in how they created the consortium a couple weeks ago, and with that consortium seeding this ecosystem as well. So I think getting more color just today, I mean tomorrow as they report, more color on these investments, the value of those investments, I think the market needs to see that. And of course, earnings growth showing that they have the free cash flow that they're generating, that they need to invest. And maybe they have to buy back stock with it, but also investing in the ecosystem.
So I was going to say, put another way, it's what do they do with the cash? They ended fiscal 26 with almost $100 billion of free cash flow.
Right.
I think the quarterly estimate's near to $50 billion, right, for this and the coming quarter. You know, what can they do beyond the buyback?
I mean, look, they can increase their dividend, right?
Okay, I mean, what can they do other than a shareholder-friendly return policy? Of course,
so capital returns, right? They continue to invest in their own business, invest in the ecosystem, and then capital returns. And I think Jensen is doing all of those things. So we just need to get more color on that, and more data points in terms of monetization of AI will continue to help them. We saw that with the Mag 7, the other Mag 7 companies reporting a few weeks ago. Seeing more of that, I think, will be important for Nvidia.
We're having a very stock-focused conversation, not a technology one. Right. I'm looking for something, you know, technology-related. I guess they are ramping Vera Rubin. It's in full production, but whenever a new technology comes online in that ramp, there is an impact on margins. Nvidia has 75% margins. Like, how much do you pay attention to that side?
Yeah, look, we do. I mean, they talked over the weekend. We heard that they're taking price increases to offset some of these memory prices, right? So a 7-handle gross margin is a pretty high number. That's not a common number that you hear in the hardware space. So any color on that, I think, will be important to see as well. And we're going to be increasingly focused on gross margin going forward.
Carmen mentioned that 7-day run of declines goes back to September of 2022. We weren't even at the ChatGPT moment then.
Right.
But here and now, Nvidia will double revenue to almost $100 billion. They will double adjusted earnings. That is extraordinary, is it not? Why is everyone so tepid about it?
It's extraordinary, but Carmen also mentioned there's a deceleration coming, and unfortunately, the market is looking forward to next year, the year after, and so that deceleration is being accounted for. Is the multiple that it's trading at correct, because even that deceleration is still 45, 50% growth. I think we should. The market is being discerning because of that circularity.
Okay, Nvidia earnings after the market close on Wednesday, that will be the catalyst. Right. I really enjoy having you on the program because you're also a partner at Franklin Venture. So let's talk a little bit about private markets, or I guess IPO markets.
Right.
You know, there's so much reporting about what's to come. Where are we in a window, do you think? What are you preparing for?
Yeah, look, we had the SpaceX IPO successful, in my opinion. Of course, there were a number of dynamics going on with a little bit of the momentum unwind happening in July, as well as just a slowdown, summer slowdown going on. And so the market right now, I think, is gearing up for another IPO window to hit. And I think it's going to be a truncated window post-Labor Day because you've got 6 to 7 weeks before the midterms. And so... How
much pressure is there for these big... I mean, we're talking in part about Anthropic. You have some exposure to Anthropic, but to get it done before November 5th.
I mean, that's one window. And then you have midterms, Thanksgiving, and then maybe a couple weeks in December that you can do this. So I think the pressure is on. I think we're going to see a number of deals coming through. You just saw a couple flip their S1s this morning, Aura and Agreco. So I think you're going to see a number of companies come through in the 10 to 20 billion market cap range. On top of course, there's rumors about Anthropic. We'll see when they actually flip their S1, and we'll go from there.
How easy is it to assign a proxy valuation to those? Does Anthropic just say, well, that's what SpaceX did, so that's what we'll do too?
No, I don't think they can do that. I think there's a lot more that we'll learn in the filing, and through that, I think we'll get a better sense of how to value the company.
Just very quickly, you mentioned basically mid-cap IPOs. You're not the first person to come on this show and say this will be the era of the mid-cap, in technology in particular.
Which points to a broadening of the markets, which we've been waiting for, right? Last year, we talked about there was so much concentration in the market. You need to see this broadening. You need to see some of this new issuance come. The last few weeks, the issuance, again, has been follow-ons in some of the mega-cap and large-cap companies. I think you need to see some of that to just create more of a dynamic, broader market.